Laptop computer spins onto the screen, opens, and displays ATP Education Program webinar series, closes, and then spins off the screen.
Hello, and welcome to Early Childhood Mathematics, Developing Foundational Skills. My name is Beth, and I look forward to helping you broaden your skills in supporting early learners develop their mathematical understanding through play and exploration in early childhood settings. Stop and think for a moment. What skills are learners working as they interact with Lego blocks here? You may be thinking patterns, play, construction, numbers, and you'd be right on all of those counts. There are basic skills that are foundational to the development of mathematical proficiency for all learners, regardless of disability. In this training series, we will examine big ideas around the development of skills related to sets and patterns, spatial relationships, and shapes and number sense and counting. In session 1, we are going to talk about how understanding sets and patterns supports young learners as they explore and play. After today's session, you should be able to explain how young learners develop an understanding of sets, sorting, and patterns as foundational skills for learning mathematics. You will be able to identify strategies that make explicit and embedded instruction accessible for all learners, and you'll be able to support families in helping their young learners develop an understanding of sets, sorting, and patterns through play and routine activities throughout the day. A big idea in the understanding of sets is that attributes can be used to sort collections into sets. Let's take a look at this basket of balls. Objects that young learners encounter in their world can be described by their attributes, such as size, color, shape, and more. Consider all the balls in this basket and the attributes you might use to describe any of them. You might be thinking color, small versus large, bumpy versus smooth, ones with holes versus without holes. These are all ways that learners could classify and sort the balls. Now consider the attributes of the shapes here. If asked to match the shape on the right to the corresponding shape on the left, young learners may discuss that the shape on the right is a circle and is blue. They may notice that there are two blue shapes on the left and two circles. This demonstrates an understanding of common attributes, with ultimately being able to focus on both the attributes of the shape and the color in matching the blue circle to the blue circle. Think about how this can be done across activities with blocks, beads, socks, mittens, etc., as well as more academic concepts such as shapes. Matching by attributes is a precursor to sorting by attributes. Sorting involves recognizing a whole collection or set into two or more subsets. A binary sort is where a learner produces only two sets, one with a chosen attribute and one that does not. The learner applies or decides upon a rule to use to sort a collection. For example, in this collection of pictures, if I sort them as animals and not animals, the rule that's being applied is animals, ignoring other attributes such as color or things that can move versus things that are still, or food that we can eat. When sorting a collection into sets, learners are applying a rule to make decisions regarding whether an item in a collection adheres to that rule. Another big idea in sets is the idea that the same collection can be sorted in different ways. After learners have sorted a collection in one way, it is important to help them recognize that the same collection can be sorted differently. This helps learners attend to more than just binary differences. As learners become more sophisticated in their sorting, they can sort with multiple attributes, such as red vehicles and red fruit. Versus things that are not red. Learners learners can sort with many common items found in homes and classrooms, and there are fun, open-ended software apps that also support sorting. Magnetic ABCs is one of my favorites. Magnetic ABCs is an iOS and Google Play app that has lots of wonderful uses across early childhood education. And we'll take a look at some other features of it later on. But one of my favorite things to do with young learners working on sorting collections is to take one of their fun background scenes and add stickers or stamps, magnetic stickers or stamps for learners to be able to use, where they can simply select and drag one of those delightful animals on there and add them and create a collection. So we could make a wonderful farm scene, and then take this collection of images and sort it. So maybe we would sort by animals that have 4 legs, and maybe then animals that have 2 legs. I'm trying to decide, does a bunny have 4 legs or 2 legs, right? We could continue to add to that and make discussions and decisions about how we might sort. Maybe we would continue to sort, but add things that are not alive and things that are alive, right? So we could sort all of our things that are alive and all of our things that are not alive. Since we're discussing some software apps to use with our young learners, let's make sure that we're all on the same page about what makes an effective early childhood app. An effective early childhood app must be open-ended to support play and problem solving. It should promote literacy, language, and vocabulary development without drill and kill. It should include interactive, engaging, rich activities that invite a high degree of interactivity and control by the user. It should encourage movement, both fine and gross motor. It should enhance and encourage interactions with adults or peers rather than promoting solitary exploration. It should be culturally diverse and free of stereotypes and meet a developmental need. Our next big idea around sets is that sets can be compared and ordered. Sorting a collection into sets makes the item in the collection easier to compare. Size and quantity are often the way that sets are compared, in particular using the concepts of more than, less than, and equal to, bigger, smaller, the same. We can do this with easily found objects, such as all of those containers you have lying around in a cabinet or drawer. With these containers that I have pictured here from my Tupperware drawer, we could order them by size, and we can also compare by clear versus solid colored containers. There are more clear containers in my collection than solids. We can also sort by the ones that are circles versus ones that have rounded corners or are rectangular, although none of these are actually true rectangles. I like to make learning life-sized by really getting my learners up and a part of the activities that we're doing. So let's take a look at this video that shows a teacher deciding upon a rule and having the learners sort themselves based on that rule. Having learners physically engaged in the activity is a great way to make it particularly meaningful, as well as giving them the opportunity to move their whole bodies. Be cautious of sorting learners by gender or other personal characteristics that might make assumptions that are not necessarily so.
I chose the book 5 Creatures because in the story there's a family of 2 cats and 2 adults and 1 child.
Do you remember the other day we read this story?
On each page, the creatures are sorted by a different attribute. And I thought that would be a good introduction to the lesson because the children have to sort themselves by different attributes.
So we're going to have 5 creatures as sorters and 5 creatures as the audience. Okay? And I want the sorters to stand up. Could you all stand up, please? And you're going to stay sitting. Now, let me see. I'm going to be looking at what you're wearing. And we are going to sort ourselves by what you're wearing. So, the children that are wearing boots come to this rectangle. If you are wearing boots. Oh, where should you go, Yihang?
In the red.
Come on. The children who are wearing shoes come in this rectangle. Yeah. Joseph, which rectangle do you belong in? Are you wearing boots or shoes, Joseph? Let's have a look. Let's show everybody so we can figure it out. How about Joseph, audience? Michelle, this is your job. Have a look at Joseph. Is he wearing boots or shoes?
I know.
What is he wearing?
Shoes.
Shoes. So which rectangle should he go in?
Oh, the Lego.
Oh, okay. Over here, Joseph. There we go. So why is just Yihang in this group?
Because he's wearing boots on himself.
She's wearing boots. And why are all of the other creatures in this group?
Because he just has shoes.
Oh, they're wearing shoes. So what could we call this group? What can we call this group? What did you say, Yihang? You heard Yihang say boot. What do we call this group? The boot group.
Okay.
And if this is the boot group, what can we call this group?
Shoes group.
The shoes group. What a good idea.
The educator in the video referenced a book that she read to the class that promoted sorting by attributes. There are so many wonderful children's books that can be incorporated into early math learning lessons. Some books that highlight sorting include an old favorite, Frog and Toad, with the story The Lost Button, any of Tana Hoban's books, 5 Creatures by Emily Jenkins, Is Your Mama a Llama, and any of the versions of Goldilocks and the 3 Bears. Many of these books are available digitally on websites such as Epic, including Frog and Toad Are Friends. You can see here, where as they're looking for Toad's button, they're finding all sorts of things. But Toad says, "That's not my button. That button is black. My button was white." Right? So they're sorting now by an attribute of color. A sparrow flew down. "Excuse me," said the sparrow, "did you lose a button? I found one." "That's not my button," said Toad. "That button has 2 holes. My button has 4 holes." You can probably imagine how as you continue to read this, you could then easily set up a wonderful sorting activity for your learners with buttons of different colors, different sizes, and different holes. Let's move on to talk about patterns. We often find patterns within collections that we sort. One big idea about patterns is that patterns are sequences, either repeating or growing, that are governed by a rule. Patterns exist both in the world and in mathematics. Young children often notice patterns in their world early on. Looking for patterns in the world around them is a delightful way to help families and young learners see the math in the world. The kiwi has a repeating pattern with seeds fanning out from the center, while the fern is a growing pattern with the fronds having more and more sections on them as you move from the tip to the stem. Just as with sorting collections into sets, there are rules that learners can find in patterns and then apply to continue that pattern. In the images above, there is an AABB repeating pattern with a place for the learner to apply and put that apple tree in to continue that pattern. Then an ABAB pattern and finally a place for learner to create their own pattern, so they can make a decision about what that pattern might be. This leads us into our next big idea. This big idea is that identifying the rule of a pattern brings predictability and allows us to make generalizations. When learners understand the rule being applied, they can use that rule to create patterns with novel items. It is critical to ensure that learners understand that a rule can be applied to any collection of objects that has multiples of the same item. In the sets here, the rule is applied not just to color, but also to shape and to color and shape. Pattern blocks are commonly found in most early childhood classrooms and can also be found digitally at the mathlearningcenter.org. Let's go ahead and take a look. There are many virtual pattern block apps out there, and the Math Learning Center is just one example of these. This is a highly open-ended and flexible learning tool where learners can simply click and play with different shapes. And in the context of creating patterns, where they can easily create simple patterns and explore what those patterns might be like. Another big idea is that the same pattern can be found in many different forms. While the pattern in this kiwi or the pattern in this fern frond might be difficult to describe and put a rule to, learners can find patterns in many things, not just in shapes. It's critical for young learners to understand that the same pattern can be made not just with different shapes or colors, but with all sorts of items. The ABABA, a book of pattern play by Brian Cleary, illustrated by Brian Gable, is a great example on Epic of using a book to introduce and explicitly teach what patterns are for learners. It defines that a pattern is a repeating arrangement of numbers, colors, shapes, or other items, and goes on to explicitly explain how patterns show repeating in a certain type of way to help you know what's next. And being able to show that it's a way that is predictable, as in a way, as in this row of rings. Epic.com is a free resource for educators with minimal charges for family use. I encourage you to check it out. Learners can easily find patterns in their play, whether it's in stringing a set of beads with this growing pattern of a star, 2 circles, 3 squares, whether it's in seeing the patterns within table settings in the housekeeping corner, the pattern of fork, plate, spoon, fork, plate, spoon, playing with cut up pool noodles in a water table, or using virtual Unifix cubes from Didax.com. Virtual manipulatives, such as these Unifix cubes from Didax, or pattern blocks, as we looked at before, are great for some of our learners who may have some real challenges with their fine motor in being able to manipulate typical materials in mathematics that our children get to explore. And taking a look at how they can create patterns, copy those patterns, extend those patterns with digital manipulatives. We can easily explore patterns in our children's artwork, such as this adorable caterpillar made of a sequence of blue, red, yellow, blue, red, yellow, blue, red, yellow. Or get learners engaged in a pattern scavenger hunt. See what learners can find in their own environment. Get your learners up and moving. They can come together in a group and share what they found, describe the patterns compared to peers, and sort by patterns. You can use this wonderful book on EPIC to get them started with it. A Patterns Scavenger Hunt by Carrie Dinmont is a wonderful exploration of patterns that learners might see all around them. Some other books that highlight patterns include I See a Pattern Here by Bruce Goldstone, Patterns at the Powwow, created by the First 100 Institute and available on Unite for Literacy, and Patterns in Winter, which is available on EPIC. Let's take a quick peek at Patterns at the Powwow. Unite for Literacy is a wonderful resource to share with families. It provides highly engaging books that feature individuals from many different cultures, and it includes narration, including oftentimes narration in other languages besides just English. Colorful patterns catch my eye. They are available everywhere at the powwow. They are everywhere at the powwow. I see rings on a headdress. I see triangles on a teepee. I see stripes on a shirt. Patterns are not just in our environment and in mathematics, but they are critical in literacy. Here's a screenshot from the Magnetic ABC app with just different letters and numbers thrown up on the screen. But letters and words can be sorted too. So think about how you and your learners might sort these letters. The Napping House has patterning, as do various books. Sorting and patterns are a critical part of decoding text. As young children learn to read, they are applying their knowledge of patterns and sorting. They learn to find patterns in letters and words and use this information to read groups of words. Emergent readers can begin to sort or categorize words by sounds, long versus short vowels, such as the C that's represented by the S sound versus the K sound, by rhyming or non-rhyming words, and by meaning, words that mean the same thing, words that are opposites. So truly, as learners are playing and working, they are developing mathematical skills and literacy skills. Stay tuned for our next session on blocks and block play.
Thank you for watching. For more information on the ATP Education Program, please visit our website at atp.nebraska.gov/education or email us at atp.education@nebraska.gov.